Welcome back, everyone. We're here in part 3, and this is page 1. Let me zoom in. I wasn't going to record here, but I think I only got one video in all of part 2. I started recording because I was going to talk, and here I am kind of not really talking, but um, part. Oh, I got to zoom out a little bit here. Let's see which way to zoom out. I think I ended up finding a groove in part 2 that I feel like I haven't been in for a long time. So part 2 got made a little faster than or I should say a lot faster than I've been working lately. Okay, hopefully this will work. So I got the first panel already. Decided I was going to start recording after I got to this point. So here's panel 1. Layer new image. So always with part 2, I think I kind of got too much in the groove and wasn't really focused on recording. So it kind of just never happened. Well, I mean, I got one video out of the whole part, but okay. See, this is why I didn't break the groove in the last part, because I lose focus. I didn't want to lose the focus that was going on. And now, well, I probably should have checked this. Oops. Okay, it's at the edge. Ah. Oh, shoot. I forgot the caps. Let's see. Yeah, that is how we do it. Okay. I probably would have been done with part 2 a day earlier. But I'm sort of falling. I just keep falling back in this pattern of not being able to get like a full 8 hours of sleep. So I've been exhausted lately, and I think the last couple of days end up kind of grabbing a nap when I'd otherwise be working on this. You know what? I'm going to trim just a little bit. This. I forgot where I talked about it. If it was in that one video I made for part 2. Come on, don't stop it. For part. Ugh. Oh yeah, see, I'm too close. I gotta zoom out just a little bit. Problem is she's on this side. Parts of her are on this side of the camera. That kind of is what happens when I work small like this. Instead of expanding the set like I did with Roommates, I decided to reduce the characters. So she should be on that side of the camera right now. What was I saying? Okay. I think I was saying I want to say it was the last part, the one video I made in the last part, for part 2. I was talking about how I wasn't sure if this was going to be a 3 or 4 part story, but I'm feeling like, kind of, as I'm finished up part 2, it's really feeling like this is going to wrap up in 3 parts. Now, I hate to say it, but there's not a lot of depth to the story here to get a 4th part. And the problem with, with the size change, you sort of want the characters reacting with sort of large sized items. You kind of want the fun of them, like trying to deal with the oversized environment, but at this size there's only so much they can do, because it's not like they can climb on chairs and things, like with I know I was talking about this in previous videos here, but it's like in Grounded, where David, where you can turn a whole scene about David like pushing the chair across the room so he can get to the door and open it and get out. Here, when they're like 6 inches tall, they're too small to mess around with the environment, so it always you always have to rely on a character picking them up and moving them somewhere. And where they're trying, where she and Jackson are trying to keep it secret so that nobody else finds out that they've still got the size changer. It further complicates things that there's only so many places that they can put Liz and Mike here. One of the downsides with this story is there isn't much opportunity to have them playing around with larger props. So I think this is going to end up being a 3-part. It's feeling like at this point a 3-part story, and it's. But I think okay. Let's make sure the thumb. There we go. Okay. Okay. So this picture is fine. One thing I'd kind of like to have done. Skiller. Is sort of a lengthy denouement where we see like the whole family just celebrating Christmas together without the size change. But okay, right here. Okay, you know what? I'm going to move that word bubble in a second. In theory, I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with making sort of the climax here and creating a part 4 that's all denouement. Um, where you see them, you see them celebrating Christmas with the new, with with this new branch of the family. But it's sort of like it I think too it would be an excuse to sort of bring Danny and his family into this story, kind of remind you that they're still around. You sort of make it like a huge family event, but the downside is where this is all like, the whole point of this series is, the whole point of this is like the size change. Something just doesn't feel right about doing that. Shoot, this is going to be. You know what? I'm going to take this wall out for a bit. Let's see. Is this all in pieces? Oh my god. Okay. So this wall is the kitchen, if I'm not mistaken. Or oh, yeah, here we are. Okay, and I've got a picture that's gonna come out of the way. So what are we looking at? Furniture. Kitchen. No. Okay, there we go. So one thing I'm toying with. Okay, that changed. Now I've got to take. Let's just take her room off. So one thing I'm toying with. Oh, that's the other picture. Ah. Okay. is sort of an independent bonus story. And I'm kind of liking this idea. Kind of. I've got to kind of think about it some more. But the idea is, okay, why can't I get his? Shoot. Oh, great. Um, no. There we go. Don't ask me why it's not. Let me grab it. So one thing I'm thinking of is letting this wrap up at the end of this part, and then putting on a bonus sort of single issue story into the book. Again, it's just an idea right now. I'll probably know more. I'll probably decide. I'll kind of figure out after this coming weekend if I want to do it, what I'm going to do with it. But the idea is it's a single issue story where the families are all the families are coming. It sort of takes that idea that all the families are coming over here. Maybe like Christmas Eve or something like that. Not exactly Christmas, but they're coming over ahead of time. They're all getting together for a Christmas celebration, exchange presents, meet each other, that sort of thing. And I'm toying with the idea of premise would be maybe Aiden is telling the story of how the Santa Claus came to life. So that the Santa Claus toy is the shrunken character in something just light and goofy. So that's one possibility. Because I guess I really didn't want this to be story number 10 in this series, but it did. So, and now I really didn't want this to be like a really, really short story, and it did. So that's a possibility. I think the one thing that I'm not too confident on it is because before I started this one I had an idea for sort of a false preview issue to open this book with. The idea is it's a one-part quote-unquote preview that's outside the universe, and then it and then you kind of come into this story. And it's like I started working on it, and I just can't, like, it just wasn't working for me. Okay, I guess I can do it this way. It felt like far too much work for something that had little consequence. And I guess what I'm worried about with doing like a short story to turn this from a 75 to 100 page piece, what I'm worried about is, like, in my mind, is that I'll finish this up. I'll have this part done at the beginning of next week, right before Thanksgiving, and I'll want to just get it out there and get it on Amazon for sale. Let's see, the picture's gotta come up just a little. There we go. And it'll make me want to forego. I'll end up like justifying not doing it. Okay, I gotta make sure I paste that before I do the cut. So let's go paste as new layer, because once I do this cut, then that 1 pixel border goes into the clipboard and replaces the black background. Cut. Let's see. I'd rather. Let's see. Side to side. Sort of rather have the door in the background. Because. Oh, you know what? Well. Before I forget and end up annoying myself later, let's put all this back on. I can leave her room off for now. And Alex's door. I'm going to open it slightly. Okay, today. Here we go. Okay. There. This way you get actually, let's see how much. There you go. That way you get just a little bit of a hint. Hmm. And it's again, I still don't have a title for this one. I think there's probably like a number of different unrelated reasons why. Kind of partly because all the titles in this series have been either one or two words. And I'm thinking of something like Home for the Holidays, which is four. It's sort of, well, it hasn't exactly been a rule in naming Shrimp of the House stories. It's kind of become the habit. I think too, I can't really come up with anything that kind of sums this up. I mean, how many times, I mean, like, I could call it Uncle Mike, but, how many times have I used characters' names in titles? Um, I mean, I could call it like the Shrimp of the House Holiday Extravaganza. But a three-part story isn't exactly an extravaganza. And I'm sitting here talking about this being a three-part story, but it's just like me to be set on this, and then I'll get to the end of this part, and I'll probably decide to tack on a fourth part anyway. You know what? This really would be fun if it got stretched out to a fourth part. That would be just like me, but I don't know. Okay, no weird transparencies. So let's go save. So I think like part so like in once I didn't scale this right. I think in one sense I'd like to come up with a holiday title that doesn't oversell this story. said I don't want to call it an extravaganza. It's 75 pages. Let's Home for the Holidays is kind of catchy, but it doesn't really feel like it captures this one. Let's see. Okay, so let's go back to the door. The idea is all kinds of false starts. Let's do word. His eyes. Okay. I don't often manipulate the eyes directly, but there have been a few times. Okay. Where I sort of get a better look by moving the eyes themselves instead of using the eyes up, down, or side to side property under the head bone. Let's So the idea is I want to keep the secret of the size changer throughout this part. So the only ones who know she has it is Allison, Jackson, and Aiden. So the idea is you get to play these kind of faults. Um, Expose the false exposure with Alex and David. Um, so what is all the noise? So what is all the noise? And why are you hanging around my door? I don't like that, but that's kind of compact, so. see. Hmm. I was thinking, even before I decided to merge this one with the Christmas theme, I sort of wanted to do sort of one scene in a potential Christmas episode would involve one of the kids wanting to box and wrap up a shrunken David to give to their mom for Christmas. You know, sort of like a PG version of like the stripper and the cake. Except he wouldn't be stripping, and like that sort of thing. It's just a loose idea. So it's something I've been wanting to work into here. I feel like I could have done it with when Jackson had Liz, but it didn't feel right then. I mean, not the idea itself wasn't what felt right. It just the timing of it didn't. To me, it didn't feel right. I'm kind of thinking of putting it here, where Allison is trying to. Allison wanted to shrink Michael, but not her mom. So it's from this point forward, she's got to figure out. She's figuring it. She's got to figure out what to do. And I'm thinking, no, and I'm thinking of inserting that idea into this part, where she kind of like half jokingly suggests wrapping her up as a present for her dad, and which like, since she knows how the device works, she'd have to. The intention would be to hand it over like right away. Which of course it's not going to happen because I have a very specific. It's like with this story, I've always had a specific ending to it, and this story will end with layer to image size. Let's go. It's the idea is the story was always meant to end where Liz is let in on the secret and David is still in the dark about the size changer still being in the house. So it's like I could throw it in as her brainstorming the idea, but at the end of the day, like, she can't go through with it or David will learn about it. Now, I'm going to do sort of the same scene we did with Jackson earlier in this story, where she's going to hide them behind her back. But I think I got to turn. Okay. Let's use Control to select both shoulders, so I can do this at once. We're going to turn off limits because in order to to get him behind her back. The limit has to be off. And I'm going to go ahead and set this up now. Where for the shot, this doesn't need to be, for the particular shot here, this doesn't need to be right. But I'm planning on doing in the next page. Sort of a similar shot from behind. So I'm going to kind of just set the arms up now. I can set the characters up after, but and one thing, sort of one of those little details I did was move Jackson here. So it's like in toward the end of the second part, he's searching the living room looking for Liz, pretending it's a mouse. So I've like moved him from over there to over here to hint that he's looking behind the chairs. So it's if you look really carefully, you'll see him over here in this first panel. The idea is it provides continuity in the living room, even though we're focused on the kitchen. So what I'm going to do is let's just in case he ends up in this shot, I'm going to sort of move him to show continuity. Let's see. I'm just going to delete all these keys in one shot. Let's see, where are we? Delete keys. Oops, I want to go this way. Come back to her. Let's fix. Okay, so Jackson's not going to be in this shot. Which means the next time I do a shot that points into the living room, I won't have to move him. Let's see. We don't need it to be that dramatic. And actually, looking at this, I'm going to bring the arm out just a little bit. Her eyes? I know I've been playing with somebody's eyes here. Yeah, okay. Jeez. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay. Let's see. Let's Control C that box and go edit. Paste as new layer. and rotate it. Nah, I don't need that line. Okay. That's nice. Let's reorder these layers. That's what I'm thinking about. And two, like, my head is going to sort of the next story, so I think as far as Shrimp of the House, the next one is what I keep talking about, Recall, which I think is going to be a throwback to the first story. I'm thinking as I think about it, the premise was always that David learns that there's a recall on the size change device, but he has no idea what the recall is. He doesn't hear the details. All he knows is there's a recall. He doesn't know what the problem is. So his mind is going to. So the idea is his mind runs away with him, and somebody uses the size changer to kind of play on his fears and make him think that all the exposure to the size changer is now making him shrink without the device. And I'm thinking of doing something like the first Shrimp of the House, where it's like a very slow shrink. So the idea is like he's living with it for a couple of months, although I'm not really sure about doing, although I think like instead of it being, 1 inch a day, I might do 2 inches a day. So you get that long drawn out fear, worry, anxiety while not being too long and drawn out. So we'd end up like going through it over the course of a month instead of the whole summer. Although the next story is probably going to be spring if this is winter. It hasn't been a rule, but well, no, it actually hasn't been at all. But like the idea is sort of roughly one story in each season as I move through time, which hasn't exactly happened because it sort of worked out like that in the first story in the first year. The first 4 stories in this series played out over the course of the first year. But then, like, the second year of this universe only contained 3 stories. It was what, Summer's End? I'm trying to remember now. Summer's End, Grounded, and Aiden's Bully occurred in year 2. That's 7. And then we're in year 3 now with David's Nightmare was a summer story. Showtime was the fall, and then this is winter. So year two only had 3 stories, but this one's going to end up with 4 stories again. And I really wandered on that thought. So, yeah, so the next one in this series is going to be Recall. But I'm not sure if that's the next one I want to work on, because I'm kind of itching to do what am I doing? Flatten. I'm thinking of dump these into book 3. I'll finish this thought in a moment. Allison, I don't know how you got the size changer, but you use it to put us back this instant. I'm sorry, Mom. I don't know how you got shrunk, but this is for your own good. You're mad at me, I get it. Just restore your mom because she doesn't deserve this. Allison, what is all the noise? And why are you hanging around my door? I'm not hanging outside your room. That's page 1. But the idea is, I'm kind of really itching to do one of 2 ideas. I think this vague story called Ant Serum is grabbing my attention. Open. The basic premise is sort of like the gym rat signs up for an experiment for a drug that's better than steroids. But because he can't eat enough to fuel the muscle growth, it cannibalizes his body, and it sort of is a combination of the muscle growth / shrinking. But, conversely, sort of put together 2 characters that really sort of have like a blue-collar working class feel. And I'd really love to do something with that. So that might be the next one. But I don't know, we'll see. And I'm not going to drag this out. Maybe I'll record another video and expound on that further. But this has been page 1 in part 3.